David Fine Media, taking the spoken word to the next level.
It's the show made by custom fans for custom fans. Every show, a special guest joins the guys to talk about customs, wrestling, memories, and more. And now, the starting lineup for the Bad Boys of Podcast. Introducing, from Sydney, Australia, standing 6 feet tall, weighing in at 220 pounds, he is the Plan, Sash Man. Next, from parts unknown, his weight is at $1.98 a pound, the big Storian himself, Brother Brutus Valentine. And now, hailing from Music City, weighing in at none of your damn business, the man of 1,000 voices, the apprentice, talking Tyler Peters. And rounding out this fearsome foursome, the leader, the Pod Daddy, the ruler of Lady Droolers. Give it up, give it up, give it up for Mr. David So Fine. That's Tyler, Brutus, David, and Sash, the Figure Guys Podcast. Oh yeah!
Oh, I mean, what can I say about that awesome open created by the great Smash Ventura and Smash Ventura Productions? I mean, talking about an upgrade. I mean, Tyler Peters, the Fixtorian, you know, the Plan, Zash Man, and of course the Plan. He I didn't understand that, but then I was like, he's planned out the entire year. I mean, folks, we have the entire year planned out. We are ending the first season of the Figure Guys podcast with a celebrity, a man who is not. He was I don't know if he was an LJN, the great Tugboat, the great Fred Ottman. He's going to be coming on December 20th. We're going to round out the year with a celebrity in the house. So Tyler, get your questions. Your questions ready, and don't embarrass us. But tonight, folks. Right. Tonight, it's kind of a reunion for Tyler and myself. Our guest this week is a man who creates rings. He has an amazing ring collection and a great figure collection. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the great Mike Styer. Mike, welcome back into the program. And it's kind of a reunion. If people didn't know, we used to do a podcast.
Sorry, I'm laughing. Brutus is clapping for me.
I'm not surprised. He's the Fixtorian. He knows figures, and he knows that your collection behind you is amazing. I'm not sure if you have 2,000 figures like one of our guests recently had 2,000 figures. How many figures do you have in your collection?
So I have the entire run of LJN. I saw that podcast the other day, and I counted afterwards. I have about 200 customs that I've done, and then probably another 60 miscellaneous extras and doubles running around. Yeah, and 37 rings.
Only 37 rings?
Only 37 rings.
And I'm not going to reveal what it is, but you have an exclusive to the Figure Guys podcast. You're going to do a reveal of a new ring that you just created. We're going to leave it to the end, folks. You have to watch the entire program. It's a tease. You have to watch. It could come out now, could come out later, but folks, watch the entire program because I've seen what it looks like, and it's amazing. But Tyler, ever since we had our reunion for the other podcast, you've upped your game. You went to broadcasting school, and you now are a resident journalist. Hit Mike Styer with some hard hitting questions.
Well, Micah, it's great to have you. I'm going to try to, this is going to be just hard questions, I'll tell you. But I will say, you had $1 million ring gear, I believe, in one of your videos on YouTube. Can you take us through that process? Because I just found it awesome. I mean, what you guys do is just so amazing. Just tell the listeners and those viewing about that, because we're all just interested. I'm so excited. I can't get my words, and I'm just that pumped up to hear your response.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for being on here. I missed the boat, and I should have jumped on with you guys right away with this. And I was super busy, and I didn't know if, I could put time into it. But I love what you guys do. So thanks for bringing all the guys on. It's actually fun to see a face with a name, because for the longest time, Brutus was on Facebook, and I'm like, who is this guy? You look at his page, and you don't know anything about him, and then he gets on here, and you're like, okay, now I know who this person is. And so this is such a great podcast to be on, and I'm really appreciative of you guys doing it. And I also want to know, how can I get an intro like that for my YouTube channel? Because that was awesome. That was awesome.
I know a guy.
You know a guy. Okay.
I know a guy with red hair or pink hair. He's a great guy, Smash Ventura. But yeah, I mean, he'll definitely hook you up with that.
Fantastic.
But I mean, speaking of your YouTube channel, I mean, you
I
do a lot of videos.
Tyler's question. Got to answer Tyler's question.
It's okay. It was awesome. I love the energy.
No. So, did you ask about the $1 Million Man, the ring gear, or what? You want to know?
Just how you made that. I mean, I just think people would be fascinated, because I don't really do custom. So I think for somebody like me, they would be interested to kind of hear how you come about that idea, that concept.
Well, I try to look at ones that are obscure. There are ones that I see a lot, unless they really jump out to me, and I'm like, I really want to do that one. I'll look for ones that I haven't seen, just so I can be up for the challenge. Like, I like to do a lot of the masked guys, because I don't see them too much, and I'm also more of I'm a better painter than I am a sculptor. So when I have a figure like the $1 Million Man body, or I took a Jake figure that was in broken shape, and then I think I fixed that, changed the hands up, chopped the head, and then I had a $1 Million Man head cast already, and I put that in. And as you can see from the videos, I walk you through that stuff. Honestly, I've gotten lazy lately, and I don't always show all the steps to it, because I kind of assume that people have seen it. But it really just starts with an image in my head that I've seen, and I'm like, I think I'd like to try that out and see how well I can do. So that's really where it starts, and then I go from there.
Now, that's cool. That wants everybody wanting more. So I think that's a great way to do it.
Next.
Yeah, I was waiting. I didn't know.
I was thinking Zash would be the man.
My answers had stunned you so much.
Sharing the talent here. So yeah,
hey, talking. Well, okay, as the new intro calls Tyler Peters, talking Tyler Peters.
Well, I mean, I didn't know. I was trying to. It's a panel, is it not? I mean, come on. Yes, I love these guys. I do. Hey, they put up with it.
Hey, Zash, you have any questions that you'd like to ask Mike?
I'm just waiting my turn. I used to be the next in charge, but now I seem to be ahead of you, Mike, in the photography thing. The way we're set up. Am I the leader, the silent leader now? That was a question.
Oh, are you the silent leader? You can be whatever you want.
I'm talking to David, and he's looking down on his telephone, answering text messages or something. I don't know what he's doing. But
I teach junior high kids, so I'm used to awkwardness.
Hey, none of your. You know what I'm doing? None of your damn business. That's what I'm doing.
We are live, David. Come on.
Crap! We're live. Hey, it kind of brings me back to that one episode where you hosted it, and you didn't think we were live, and we're saying all this stuff. But anyway.
That was a wicked episode. I think we got a lot of support.
I have some questions then.
Okay, go ahead, Bruce.
Questions on the front row from the Fixtorian.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit glitchy, so I apologize for that. I seem to be jumping all over the place. So, Mike, a lot of guys, were are revisiting what they loved during their childhood. Did you have this love for LJNs back when you were a youngster?
I did, but this is my story's different from everybody else, it seems, because people are like, hey, what were your favorite LJNs as a kid? And do you still have yours? And I'm like, no, I didn't have any. Because I collected Star Wars, I collected G.I. Joe, I collected Transformer. And there was a point when I remember my parents said, you collect too much. And so we're going to draw the line at wrestling guys. And so I had the love of wrestling. I've always had it. And, I can think of all my classmates that I was the wrestling guy. I knew a lot about it, but I didn't have a single figure. I didn't have a figure until, I want to say about 4 years ago. A friend of mine does flea market sales, and he had a junkyard dog, and he had Nikolai Volkov, and I picked both those up, and that's really where it started off. And I'm like, I didn't even know who all were in the lines. Yeah. And then I started picking them up here and there, and then I got into Facebook, and then, nearly 400 figures later, here I am, I guess. And so obviously something was missing in my life, but it was just something that my parents never let me have. And my parents really didn't understand wrestling or the love of it. They were, kind of old school, pretty strict on things. And so I didn't get to have that stuff, but which would have been fun because I've kept all of my toys from my childhood, but not a single LJN, not a single wrestling figure at all.
Amazing,
Mike. I've been catching up on your videos lately. Sorry to cut you off, Brutus, but okay. I've got a very important question. I've been catching up on your videos lately. This week actually, and I've been watching your newer ones and your older ones. I kind of remember when you started. It was about 2 years ago. Is that right? 2 to 3 years ago?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. And I went back today and watched your very first video that you posted on there. And you were cleaning up a couple of figures, which was Slick and a couple of others. And you mentioned you have the secret to get marker off LJNs. Now, I'm still waiting for that secret to come out, mate, because you never really explained it in full.
I think I said markings and not marker.
Oh yeah. Okay.
As long, we all know we have problems with the ink issues, and I'm still looking for that secret.
Question.
Markings.
I tell you, if you do work it out, you'll be a rich man.
I know.
Tyler, I know I've always wanted to ask Mike this. Mike, whenever you were growing up, did you call your wrestling figures figurines? Or was it wrestling dolls? Tyler, I don't know. He just has this obsession with calling them wrestling figurines. And I just wanted to ask our guests, on the program tonight.
The difference is figurines. I think of like grandma's old glass figures that sit in a cabinet and they do nothing. Yeah. We have action figures because they do actions. So, yeah. So action figures.
Well, that's figurines.
Good to know. Yeah, so figurines have that special connotation, like Royal Dalton figurines that are sitting, behind glass in, as you said, in Grandma's place. And David, as Mike said, he didn't have any wrestling figures growing up, so.
Yeah, now. And of course, Michael Weems, Mr. Funny Man, Mr. Funny Man, do you call him ceramics?
Now Tyler probably had the Precious Moments dolls. He had those figures.
I did. That's my secret. Precious moments. See, if we did a podcast about that, I would be on my A game. I would have questions.
Who says he still doesn't have them?
They could be in that storage bin. Who knows? That's top secret, buddy.
And from a Facebook user, folks, just whenever you log on to Facebook and watch us, click on it so we can see your face and your name. But a Facebook user said he wanted to send a special thanks to Mike for his channel. He kickstarted my love for custom. So whoever this is, they wanted to thank you, Mike, for doing that. So.
And I reckon there's tons of people out there that think the same as that, Mike. You've really started so many people off at customs, mate, and it's a tribute to you how much you've got people into this hobby.
Well, when I got all those figures, when I got those figures, those two, I bought a lot from a guy on Facebook, and I got a ring, and it was junky, and he sent some other figures, and they were in bad shape. I think they smelled like smoke too, and I was like, okay, let's go to YouTube and see what I can do to clean these up. And I found there's like one guy, and it wasn't very good. And I'm like, okay, I want to learn how to do this, and I want to help other people. And that's really where all that started. I think if you look at my most popular video, it's that one of the very first ones about cleaning up your LJN figures, which I like because, you know, I'm a teacher for my job, and you know, I kind of guess I just have that nature in me, and I want to help people out. And because I remember where I was, and if I can do something as simple as videotape myself showing, you know, how to do something, then maybe that'll help somebody in the future. And I appreciate seeing comments and hearing things from people who said, yeah, you got me started in this. You know, it feels good to really help someone out, because then I see people who make that comment and then they become way better than I ever was. And I'm like, good for you.
Well, if you've done that, if you've made someone better than what you are, or what you consider better than what you are, then you've done a great job at what you're doing. You've taught someone very well how to do something. But am I correct in saying that your earlier videos, you were more in depth with showing people how to paint and how to sculpt and stuff like that? Now you show people sections of the figure as it goes along,
right?
To make the video shorter.
Yeah, I did, because the first few videos were they got to be really long. Like some of them were like 18, 20 minutes long. And I teach junior high, so I know what lack of attention span is. So I don't think everybody wants to see me do the same thing every video and say, here's how you put a head on, here's how you use the clay. And so I have those specific videos, but I also realized I have like 150 videos now, I think, or close to that. And so I'm sure some people get lost and don't scroll back far enough to actually see the very beginnings. But yeah, I've also gotten a little bit lazier, I'll be honest. And I show the stages of it. And I want to do that because I want people to say, okay, well, here's where I started. Here's Tito without a head. Here's Tito now with the mold. Now here's Tito in the layers of paint. And so that people can just say, okay. And that's what I do is I'll pause the video. Like I made do you guys have carpenter's bees? You guys know what carpenter bees are?
No.
Yeah,
No,
I've heard of,
okay.
no, I have.
So here in the States, we have it looks like a big bumblebee, but they like eat at your wood and stuff. And so what I wanted to do is make my own trap for them. And so I would watch a video and step by step, and I would freeze it, and then I would go and do it. And then I would watch the next step, and I'd freeze it, and I'd go and do that. And that's kind of how I feel with the videos that I do for my figures, is that I want people to be able to see what the different stages are. And then sometimes I'll make a custom, and I'll forget to do a video and be like, okay, here's what I did this week. And it's like one shot. But yeah. But bottom line, I just want to help people.
It's a very clever idea, making them shorter and doing them like that, because they're so much easier to watch. When there's a video that's only a couple of minutes long, it's really nothing out of someone's day, and they'll skip to your next video and your next video and your next video, and they're going to watch 10 videos instead of one video. Right.
And it started to take more time up for myself too at the very beginning of it. And I've gotten older and more tired and lazier. So that kind of helps it all.
I mean, the one thing I really, many things I love about you, but your rings, your first ring that you ever customized, what was it, and what was the most unique one that you've ever done? Okay, so I think my first one that I ever did was an original that I put the original stickers on. And first of all, I want to give a shout out to Cincy LJN, the best sticker makers in the business, because they do all my rings, very helpful. That you should get them on the show sometime, especially because I don't even know who they are. I just know they send me stuff from Cincinnati, but and so I think I redid just a regular LJN ring, and then I did some WrestleMania rings. I think I did 1 through 5, and then I thought, I want to do a custom ring, and I think one of my first ones was the Halloween Havoc, which is my bike's in the way here, but let me see. Okay, so see the Hulk Hogan one above my head, and then there's a Halloween Havoc. There we go. Yep. So like those four are like my first ones that I've done. The split Hogan one was tough, but let me think. Most unique. I really like the one that I did that got a lot of likes was it's behind me. Is the Rocket Wrestling one.
You can see it down at the bottom shelf.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And that one just popped in my head. I'm like, I see those stuff all the time, and you see Peter Rico doing the figures, and I'm like, I would do a ring like that, and it's just fun because I don't know why I took off, but I can remember when I was a kid, there's a friend of mine who's still a friend named Ryan, and he had two things that everybody wanted. He had a Nintendo, and he had LJN figures with a ring. And so I would go over and play with those things. And I thought, this is so awesome. But again, my parents wouldn't buy any of that stuff. So as an adult, now with a little bit of expendable income, what do I want to buy? Things that I couldn't have when I was a kid. Yep. So when I got the one ring, I thought, this is great. And then two rings. And, then all of a sudden I'm now at 37. That they, my wife doesn't understand it, but they make great displays for my figures. And I just like the uniqueness of them as well. And I take beaters. The Hogan one I'm going to show you has had a huge crack in it, had a hole in it, and someone would throw it away. It looked like garbage. And so if I can take something and pay $30 for it and then fix it up and make it a collector's item or something that I love, then, why not do that? And I feel the same way with beaters. There's been a couple on the Facebook pages, a couple people posted that they don't like that we do customization and ruin the figures. But I'm like, do you see the figures that I start off with? And that's what I show people. I'm not taking a mint Tito Santana. I'm taking a Tito with no nose and half a foot and no left hand. And now I'm making them into something that people would want, or at least I want. Or, he doesn't get thrown away. He gets kept. So why not make something better?
Well, the Figure Guys podcast has done some amazing reveals in the past. We've revealed Tom Ward's The Rock figure. We've revealed plenty of things now. Today we've heard that you've got something amazing you're going to reveal on this show. So can you explain to the audience what you're going to bring to the table today that hasn't been seen anywhere else?
Yeah, I did a Hulk Hogan ring. I have up there. It's hard to do in reverse. Over this way, somewhere. All right, so you see the split Hogan with the NWO and the Hulkamania one. I put all my Hogan customs in there. I put all my Macho Man ones down below the Macho Man one. And I'm like, I have way too many in there. And so I thought, all right, I want to do a Hulk Hogan ring. And so I looked up some images online that I hadn't seen, and it's a yellow base, so I wanted a red base. So I have a Hulk Hogan one that I redid. And again, stickers by Cincy LJN. I made the ropes. My son 3D printed most of the turnbuckles for me, so I'm able to do that. Yeah, it's a good thing because I don't want to buy all the original turnbuckles. But you guys want to see it?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, so it's got a red base on it with the yellow ropes.
Yeah,
awesome.
And then in the middle there, it's really shiny because of the bright lights that are up above. But the side stickers are all the same. It's the same image on each side. Which sometimes I'll do a different side with a different sticker, but because of the way that I display them, it doesn't matter to me. But there's the Hulk Hogan one, and it's shining off my glossy thing, but it's not as bad as that. So, but this was, again, it's a ring that I don't know if you can see it in the back side. You can kind of see where it was cracked down the middle, and it was in rough shape. And I think I only paid $30 for it. And so again, you're making maybe not necessarily a collector's item, but at least in my collection, it's a keeper, and it's something to talk about. So that's I love doing the rings. So many better people than I am at doing the custom figures. So I kind of think I found my niche in doing rings, and I've got at least 7 more that I can do. I've got I want to do all 3 faces of Foley. I've done I've done a Cactus Jack, which is behind me. And so I need to do a Dude Love, and I need to do a Mankind, which are ready. I just got to figure out the stickers that I'm going to do for it.
Well, I can tell you there's a man by the name of Harvey Snoots.
Yeah, I know. Let me see if he's messaged me already.
He's going to be on to you.
I don't really sell too many rings. I've only sold 2 to a friend of mine here in town, and then I did another of the Rock and Wrestling ones that Albert Baker won for a raffle that I did, just because they're so hard to ship. And I don't want anything to chip. I don't want the ropes to break. And once I have them together, I just keep them together because they're painted, so I don't want anything to happen to them. But yeah, Harvey's the Hulk Hogan guy. Anytime you do a Hogan custom, he's like, "Hey Mike, is that the Hogan for sale?" Yeah, so I've sold a few to go to Harvey.
Yeah, God.
The rings, your ring works fantastic, Mike, and the rings are a part of the legacy of the wrestling superstars. I pretty much believe they were all molded in New Jersey, so that's interesting to see. And we had Bruce Oliver on a couple of weeks talking about, how he got straight A's at school and his mum and dad were going to get him a ring and they ended up making the wooden ring. But for a lot of guys, their collection wasn't complete without a ring, or if one of their buddies in the neighborhood had a ring, they would go around and play with that. So I love seeing them because they're so big, so ungainly, so dangerous, as we know, and they were recalled. And just looking at that yellow Hulkamania thing, that's bringing back new life to something that originally came from the US, went over to China and Hong Kong to get packed and assembled, came back, got played with for 35 years, and now is turning into something new. So it's that life that keeps on going.
And, someone had called me out before about ruining the rings and the original rings. And again, I take broken rings. I'm not buying anybody's new, great looking ring and then tearing it apart. And I'll also use the Jack's Monster rings because they're the same exact mold. The plastic from them is a little more durable than the original plastic was because it's got a different strength to it. But at the same time, it works because I would have to flip it over and look at the date on it to see which one is which anymore. Actually, I can tell by the ring the ring posts because the Monster rings have the circular top up top, the kind of like a little hat sitting on top of it.
Yep.
But so for people who don't want to buy the old LJN, just buy the Jack's Monster ring.
And it's funny, Tyler, you did not even know that he was revealing a Hulk Hogan ring tonight. And you have your Hulkamania T-shirt on. I mean,
he was ready.
I do. There was a source. I talked to Meltzer. Said Mike Styer is going to reveal. Yeah, if you can believe his sources. Yeah.
I made the dirt sheets.
No, you're better than the dirt sheets. You're better than that.
I don't know.
I must say, Tyler, I'm ready. I'm waiting for you to just do the.
Oh God, you don't want to see that. Talk about a Halloween Havoc. That'd be bad. But that would be terrible. And that's me saying it. That's me saying it. So there you go. Don't worry, folks. We're still going to be on the air.
Hey Zash, even if he could do that, I don't know if we'd want it because he shaved off his beard, and rumor has it, I read on the dirt sheets that his whole entire body is shaved except for his head. So I just wanted to leave that image with everyone. So.
Okay.
I say one quick story. When I was young, I was mental on Hulkamania, and I cut a little tiny hole in one of my new shirts that Mum had bought me. I was probably 8 years old. Cut a little hole in it. I must have known what was going to happen. I've walked in to Mum and I've gone, "Look, I'm like Hulk Hogan." I've gone, and the whole thing tore apart. She'd just gone out to Kmart and spent whatever $8 on this shirt. Then I've just ripped it in front of her. And apart from the fact she was shocked that I could rip the shirt, she didn't know I put a little hole in it. I got the biggest slap on the behind you'd ever imagine. Never did it again.
If I rip this, Michael Weems will be very disappointed because I'll have to change it. It's actually just about threadbare anyway. So that's an interesting story, Zash. That reminds me, and I don't think I've ever shared any of my parts online, but I actually once sold a car. My car was sold, and the proceeds were used to buy alcohol and food for a WrestleMania 4 party. And so that might come up at some other time. But yeah, kids ripping their shirts that's what you had to do. But some of the bastards wouldn't rip. They had really strong seams, and you couldn't rip them. Yeah,
I love these stories.
I'll give it to Michael Williams. He's the details man. He noticed that sometimes that Brutus wears a black shirt, and I just wanted to thank Michael Williams for being a loyal watcher. I mean, he said he had just gotten off a 13-hour shift, 12-hour shift at his job, and he said he may not be able to watch it, but obviously he is because, once you get hooked, we're like a legal drug. Once you get hooked, you cannot stop watching. So,
I feel like Michael Williams is on our show every week. He's
I do
loyal
too,
to us.
Oh, he's great. I mean, he's the one coming up with some of the comedy. I mean, he wouldn't let me live down that I said figurines, which is funny. I mean, he still ribs me about that.
I mean, that sounds like a pro wrestling t-shirt. I'm just saying they're not figures; they're figurines.
I do need to give Weems a shout out because when I first started doing this, I bought a lot of the ring ropes on eBay, and I thought, man, there's got to be an easier way to do this, especially if I want multicolored stuff. And yeah, there he is. And so Weems helped me walk me through how to actually make my own. And so for the yellow ones, I actually did that. You buy the paracord is what it is, eighth inch paracord, and then you just kind of stitch it together. Although my little heat connectors aren't the greatest in the world, but it does save me some money, so I don't have to buy them online, and I can do the multicolored rings or ring ropes. So thanks, Weems.
Mike, for guys who are wondering, you've got so many rings. Is space an issue for you? I mean, how do you manage to actually display all those?
Well, I am in my basement, and I have a good sized Victorian home, and the basement runs the full length. So I've got 2 rooms in here that my wife never comes down into. And
yeah, I've seen them. I'm not surprised.
When she when she does, she's like, she just shakes her head. And I told her when I got to 25 rings, I was done because I'm OCD and I just like that number 25. And then now I'm at 37, and she's like, "You're never going to stop, are you?" I go, "Well, I haven't bought one in a couple of months here, so I'm good." So yeah, I'm constantly thinking of space, but I will clean my tool shelves every so often and be like, "I don't need this anymore," and get rid of something. I can put a ring right here. So yeah, space is getting limited now, but I can manage.
And that's an interesting thing you said. For guys like Zash, I won't speak on your behalf. We don't have basements over here. They are virtually not seen. Zash, do you know anyone who has a basement at all? Or
No.
Huh.
no, but we see guys who have got set up their man cave or their basements with these fantastic layouts. We have to try and take over a room, or I think Zash might be in a garage. So it's a really good use of space, and it's probably a good way to get away and a bit of solitude. And after a hard day at the chalk face as well, teaching those eager people about the Romans and the Mesopotamians and the Norman conquests and all those sorts of things, I can understand why you'd need a bit of relaxation.
Yeah, it is my home away from home. And I tell my kids, they're not into any of the stuff that I'm into. So they kind of look around. They're like, what's going to happen when you go? I said, well, pick a few things you want and then make a fortune off of all the other stuff that I have, because I'm not going to need it. So, yeah. Oh, well, it's my collection. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Michael Weems. He's at it again. He says, my workshop is in my basement. Zash man uses the she shed. So, boy, Michael Weems, he's just.
I've got a question
full of them. Yeah.
From Ben Ventura here. I'm not sure, David, if you can see it. A question from Ben from Smash. Can you see that one? There you go.
It says, does Mike ever customize a ring other than an LJN, or what is the weirdest custom ring he has ever done?
I've thought about getting into the mini Hasbro rings. I got to knock out the rest of my LJNs first. And I've looked at some of the other rings, and they are just not the quality of what LJN rings are. Some of them are they're too small and have too many other parts. LJNs those originals or the Jack's Monster rings are just so solid, and they're the scale that you want. Anything else, those figures are just way too big for. So I might do the Hasbro rings, because I have some Hasbros, and so I might, if I can find some cheap, I'll do those. In the weirdest ring, I don't know. I did the Halloween Havoc ring. But I thought that was pretty cool. But I did my 2 G.I. Joe rings because I'm a huge G.I. Joe fan. And if I can turn this without knocking my water over. Now I can't see there. Okay, so I've got the G.I. Joe right there, and then the Cobra one right there as well. And that's my cross between my 2 loves of my LJNs and then my G.I. Joes.
I saw your late 90s dragster BMX bike you had there, Mike Styer. What's the deal with that?
I've got I I got a Schwinn Panther right behind me back here. No,
I saw that.
1958. I actually have a bike charity here in town that I lost my dad to cancer in 2008, and I decided to get into triathlons. Clearly, I haven't done one in a while though, and I started fixing up bikes. And I thought, what can I do to honor my dad's memory? That I started a bike charity. So I had friends would donate me bikes. I would fix them up, and then I would sell them for cheap to people who needed them, and then I donated my money to our local cancer groups. And so for the last, Dad's been gone since 2008. So for at least the last 11 years as a whole, my goal is between $1,000 and $1,500 to make every year for it. So besides LJNs, that's my other kind of hobby to do, just so I can give back to my community. But I have a couple bikes that are keepers of my own, and including the Schwinn Panther. And then I've got another rehab bike one in there. So if it's not figures down here or Hollywood movie monsters, it's bikes in my basement too.
That's a great story, mate. I'm actually a bike guy myself. I grew up racing BMX bikes, and that's been a bit of my thing even up until about maybe 5 years ago. I stopped racing because I snapped my wrist really badly, and the wife gave me a bit of an ultimatum, and I think I chose the right one. Yeah. And that's pretty much what started me into the LJNs after that, getting back to my childhood stuff. Yeah.
And speaking of choices, Ash, give us an update on the Elizabeth. Any progress, or is she still standing next to your figure?
Oh, yeah, she's still up there. I'm going to start her this week, and I'll give you something for next week that you will not forget.
We all have that, because I have an Elizabeth that I'm doing as a Cyndi Lauper, but I think I've had her for about 8 months sitting off to the side. And I had a Max Moon that Jeremy, I'm trying to think of his last name. Someone had gifted it to me, and I wanted to, I wanted to work on it, but other figures kind of made their way around it, and or it was too. The Max Moon was freaking complex to paint. And
I saw that, yeah.
Oh my goodness, I loved doing it. I love to paint, but at the same time, I knew it was going to be a bear, so other figures would make their way around it. So that Cyndi Lauper Elizabeth is sitting off to the side too, and I'll look back every so often, be like, "Is it her turn yet?" No, I got to do something else. So
I will give you a reveal if you want to reveal a quick reveal.
Oh, this will be amazing. This will be good.
Now, about 2 years ago, I got my good Aussie mate, Nick Hales, to make me... Well, I didn't get him to make it. I purchased it from him. He had it, and I said, I've got to have that. I want a Nick Hales. So I purchased the Heartbreak Kid. Recently, I've made him a manager.
Oh, wonderful.
Classic.
And she's got the hearts on her, and she fits perfectly with him. So next will be a Sherry with long hair that I'll be making next, but I think that goes perfectly with the Nick Hales Heartbreak Kid. What do you think?
I cannot compete against that. That is fantastic.
That's great. Look,
that's
I think we're starting to see Sherry's role and importance as a worker in the ring, and then with the Macho King, and then the Heartbreak Kid, and someone who left us very early. And a good shout out there to Nick Hales, who's still pumping them out on his own terms now, and it's good to see. So, and he's a master at his craft. So,
I saw where Joseph had a question about Master of the Universe ring. I thought about doing that, but you have the two that came out already with that line. You had the Castle Grayskull ring and the Snake Mountain, which I need the Snake Mountain. So somebody give me a shout out and help me get that Snake Mountain ring, because my Walmarts in Kenton suck. So anyways, that's Ohio. I wouldn't mind doing one, because I've done my G.I. Joes. I thought about doing a Masters of the Universe one. I've got some other ideas, but just actually putting them, down on paper or in my head and then getting to them. But I would consider doing one in the future.
I mean, we're getting so many great questions, and we have a Facebook user that says these customs just blow me away. I mean, Zash and Mike, you're just two of probably the greatest customizers. in the game today, and then I'm not just saying that because you're on here, but you have some great figures, and just keep on pumping out. And a question for you, Mike: the pandemic, it's been going on, seems like God forever. Has that slowed you down of like going out and like finding things in the wild? I mean, do you find figures to restore in the wild? And if you do, has this past year and a half kind of slowed you down with, stores being closed, maybe not wanting to go to a yard sale or a place like that?
That's actually a good question. I just use Walmart paints because it's what I've got. I live in a small town, and during the pandemic, it seems like everybody's doing arts and crafts, and the paint section just got murdered. And I'm like, I can't even find a basic white to go with. So I struggled at times, and I actually put it on the back burner because I'm like, if I don't have paint, then I can't paint. I don't get figures in the wild very often. They're just not around here. Although I do have a yard sale that's nearby me on Thursday that I saw they had some LJN beaters, so I might hit that one up. But that's where these Facebook pages really come in handy because they're guys that through this I've become friends with. A guy named Brian Searcy. We do a lot of trades back and forth, and he'll send me beater figures if I'll paint one of his for him. And I'm like, that's a great trade. It doesn't bother me to do a paint job real quick, and I can get some beaters without going out too far and looking for them. And we just don't have it here. The closest city I have is Columbus, and even when I go to toy shows, they hardly have any LJNs, or they're so high priced for $20 for Hulk Hogan with no nose. I'm like, I can't do that. So luckily I've got a good bin full of beaters already, and I don't have to look too much, but I'd rather trade with guys that I know from the pages and see what can I do for you? What can, back and forth. So if you're not going to use the beaters and you can find them, then, I'll do something for you. So that's the easy way to do it.
Yeah, and just one other question, then I'm going to toss it to Tyler because I know he's the consummate journalist. Since the last time we spoke and saw each other, the prices of LJNs have just gone up dramatically, and all these things on Facebook, a Hulk Hogan prototype for $120,000. I mean, what is your thought on the outrageous prices of LJNs? I mean, I don't see it on other wrestling lines. I mean, maybe I just don't see them, but LJNs in particular. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's the old story of guys our age now have disposable income. And so we can buy the stuff that we wanted as a kid. I don't see that for other lines because I don't think they're that quality. Sure, the elites, the newer ones, people are keeping in boxes. Maybe the Galoob's a little bit. But
the Hasbros.
Yeah, the Hasbro. Oh, yeah. Okay, so
they're ridiculous. The
green
card Hasbros has gone ballistic.
And so I'm thankful for two things. Number one, I'm thankful that I knocked my collection off pretty quickly, and I got that blackstrap Andre for $120. Right. So I'm glad that all is done. And then the second thing is I'm glad I don't collect men on card. My goodness, I have no space. My basement can be a little bit damp. I don't need anything with cardboard down here. So I'm glad I don't collect that stuff because that's a rabbit hole I wouldn't want to go down at all. But I think with everything, it's going to at some point plateau because like I go to auctions and things like that, and I'll see the generation in front of me, they're older and they're getting rid of their toys, but I don't want those because that's not my childhood. So those prices are starting to go down, and I feel like at some point ours will, but it's going to be another 20 years. It's going to take a while. So I'll just sit on mine until I'm ready to retire. And then I might sell some. Who knows? Well, I think
sounds like a plan.
The other thing too is my God, in the last years, Ash, how good have people gotten at making molds of their own stuff?
Well, I was
holy cow.
I was actually going to ask you this. When you were talking about the beaters, I thought, why don't you know how to do molds of heads and stuff? Have you ever thought of doing legs and body parts like that of resin?
I have, but then I factor in like the cost of things. Like a beater Hulk Hogan, I can get for $10. A beater Tito, same thing. But for me, for the cost of the materials to make the mold and to make the silicone, it's just it doesn't. I don't think it'll ever balance out.
Sure.
And I don't think I can do. I can barely do heads correctly. I don't think I could pull. I've looked so many videos of doing whole bodies. I mean, the stuff that some of these guys do. Holy cow, Bendham's and the minifigures. Oh my God, is it Brandon Ward that does that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that blows me away. At some point I may collect the little ones, but I'm like, I don't think I could pull it off. B, I just don't have the time to do it. But I think that might help stabilize the market, because if I can't buy or afford, an Ultimate Warrior figure, a black card, then get the silicone and then just paint it.
Exactly.
And then it wouldn't bother me to have
more
that.
expensive figures. I obviously wouldn't do a mold of like a Hulk Hogan or a Hillbilly Jim or something like that. That's a cheap figure. But if it's something that a figure that is maybe $50 and over, maybe Billy Jack Haynes or anything like that,
Right.
that is something that's going to cost me a bit of money to cut up, and I want to do a few of them, well, then it works out feasible to do a mold of them.
Well, and that's why I did. I also molded the LJN heads. Other people do their custom heads, and I'm like, no one's done the heads, so I took my figures and then just dipped them in a thing, and now I can get I can use the heads of I use a Blackstrap Andre head all the time on things. I'm like, all right, well, I don't have to cut up Blackstrap Andre to get that head. So I think we just come so far in the last year and a half with customizing that it's just crazy from where we started off to where we're going now.
That's the same head as the short hair Andre, isn't it?
That's
Yeah,
right.
Just
it
different
is.
coloured eyes.
Yeah.
Tyler, shoot over to you, buddy. What have you got to say?
Oh no, you're fine. It's been great conversation. I was just going to ask, speaking of making figures out of figures on the LJNs, and I think it's appropriate because Owen Hart, the anniversary of his death. Mike, you did a Owen Hart out of, I believe, a Jimmy Snuka on one of your YouTube videos. So I was going to ask you about that. Just kind of explain how you and Zash and Brutus, people that make those LJNs, come up with that whole process creatively. Picking out which figures that'll fit, certain molds, like, doing the Owen out of Snuka. I think that's very interesting.
Well, I ended up changing, and for me, it's just the size of the head, because some of the heads don't match the bodies very well, and so I had a smaller Owen Hart head, and I had it on Snook, and I didn't really like it, and so I got a bigger head, and I put it on Macho Man, and so I made the new Hart Foundation here essentially, and I got the anvil head. I thought, who else can I put it on? Because I already have the anvils that I use. That now I'm using. I want to say Don Morocco. Is that who that is? I forget.
JYD.
Oh yeah, it's a JYD. Yeah, it's a Junkyard Dog. That's what it is.
JYD,
I forgot.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
I had
That is awesome. I love them. They're fantastic.
I have a ton of JYDs, and it's one of those things, like, it's a Hillbilly Jim too, that you're like, well, what the heck can I make out of these? Because they have giant heads and they weigh a ton. It's like, what can you make out of them? And so this one ended up really good because you had to have a guy who has a gut and a little bit bigger arms. And so I'm like, this is perfect. And so, even though Owen wasn't ripped like this, to me, it's like, it's close enough, because, I'm not a tough critic on myself. As long as I like them, that's what really matters.
Yeah,
and
they look great. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I try to tell that to anybody who's trying to make figures for the first time, is make yourself happy. If you post things up and people have the smile, laughing faces and things, that kind of ticks me off, because then I want to say, where are yours? Where are your customs? If you're going to mock other people's work, then why don't you toss some of yours up here and see if it'll stand against mine or Zash's or somebody else? But because, again, as a teacher, what I want to do, I'm using my figures in my hands here. I just want to help people get better. And, if they find that they really love this, then keep doing it. And I'll tell you something personal about myself is, let me put these back here. I have anxieties. I have depression. And before I got into this stuff, I had a hard time and that's one of the reasons why I worked on bikes, is I needed something to do with my hands and something to keep my brain silent. And this has helped me out so much. I've gotten medicated. I'm not afraid to tell people that I got some medicine, and I work on this stuff, and so I have flexed the creative side of my brain that has sat dormant for basically my whole life. I was not artistic as a kid. And then there's sometimes I look at my stuff and go, damn, I'm not too bad at this thing. And it's funny that it's so much later in life, but it's something that keeps me occupied and helps keeps that anxiety in place. So I think if something gives you joy like this, keep doing it. Keep working at it. We're all not going to be Zash Mans. So as long as you can try to get somewhere in that his stratosphere, then you might be doing something right. So I just hope
really
people
appreciate you sharing that with us, Mike. That's very nice of you to share that.
Yeah.
And look, going out with anyone that's got these anxieties or depression, if you do find something you love and it can help out, then just go for it. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, and Mike, and Mike and I will agree with you 120%. I mean, this past year and a half, since COVID lockdown, people dying. If doing this makes you happy, that's all. I mean, you may not make a living at this, and most people don't. But if it makes you happy and keeps you sane, and within this last year and a half, I mean that's all that matters. I mean, if it makes you happy, that's what the community is for. I mean, when we started this podcast 15 episodes ago, and before that, I was like, I didn't know about this community, but I have learned that there are a lot of great people that are supportive of you, and I just really like that.
Yeah, and I'll second that. And I'm never out to make a buck on this. If people like Harvey message me and say, "Hey, you want to sell that?" I'm like, "Okay, I have no problem because I can whip another one together." But this is my collection. It's for me. If other people don't like it, I don't care. I love my collection. I love showing my collection to other people. I have friends who don't have any of them, here in town, and they're like, "Can I come over and see your collection?" These are the 40-year-old men. Can I see your collection? Yeah, absolutely. You can see my collection. I'm more than happy to share that with you. And this community has been so good for me. I've met so many good people. You guys, again, you're doing great things. There's a guy named Tanner Calfee who just messaged earlier in the show. I don't know if he's still watching, but said something earlier in the show. But he's one of the first guys that I show my new stuff to because I bounce ideas off of him. And he's like, love it. Awesome. And that feels good. And I'm able to help him out with stuff. And, Tom Ward is another one, Brian Searcy, so many other guys that I just want to help out, and they help me. And I feel like it's a great community because nobody around my community cares too much about this. And so I can't talk to them about it. My family, same thing. So I'm very thankful for you guys. I've never physically met any of you guys, but I still feel like, hey, you're my friends. We share this joy of something, and it's something that I want to give back to as well.
It's unbelievably well said, Mike.
So
and I tip my hat to you
Yep.
about everything you've done for the community, mate. You've done a massive amount for it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And David echoed those thoughts. And there's a lot of guys as they're getting older, and especially over the last year and a half, have experienced a disconnect with community, just community generally. And so the forums, and there's a whole bunch of different forums who help in different ways, are a great way of keeping that connection going, and knowing that you can just actually talk to someone quite quickly if you want to. But of course, we all see occasionally there's a few nasties who seem to have a run. They get on and then they disappear for a while. And so I suppose we all just have to ignore them after a while. But your videos are a great way of connecting people, because you have an easy to camera style as well, and a good voice, even though your dungeon is a bit spooky, I've got to say. And so, it's very old school down there.
My camera work is like this. It's my
well, that's better. I prefer that personally, because you see things like on Instagram and TikTok, and they're so slick, right? Short and slick, and they're like properly produced things. Our LJNs, these guys, they're not slick. They are what they are, and it was the kids' play that did it. So it's, you got to keep the hand of the maker in the work. Otherwise, it just becomes a product, And if we want product, we can buy Mattel WWE figures, produced 1.5 million, 27 points of articulation. And although their heads look good, their bodies still pretty much all look the same.
They are not fun to play with either. I've got some of those that I would get with that. I'll pick up a lot here and there, and they throw those in, and I'm junking them because they're straight garbage. I'm like, who wants to play this? Because the body's all articulated in 12 different ways. I'm like, there's no imagination of that.
No, it's even funny, though I never knew how to work them. I was thinking, what are you meant to do with this? But then I see guys posting these photos on Facebook. David's even mentioned it a few times, and they're doing all these massive poses that look so realistic. And I think, how do they get them to stay in the air if they dropped it and quickly taken a photo?
I wonder that too. I see that, and there's a guy on one of the vintage pages, toy pages, that does it with the WWF Masters of the Universe crossover, and with wrestling, and with the old Masters of the Universe figures in wrestling rings. And I love them because I'm like, how do you do that? And I thought the same thing. Do they drop it? Do they have fish wire? They're great. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
And speaking of something that's amazingly produced, the Fixtorian Brutus Valentine he's been a part of two massive wrestling figure books. Of course, the LJN book and the new Has book. And I know that, Brutus, you don't have many copies left of the LJN book. Can you kind of give an update on that, and then an update on Greenville's Has book?
Yeah, thanks for that, David. Technically, the LJN Wrestling Superstars book sold out on the weekend, but I have been in negotiation to try and get a new smaller print run. And I did explain that online and tried to be transparent. So I have spent $10,000 to get another print run, which is a big commitment. So if 5 guys want the book, I'm stuffed, right? But if more want it, but I'm prepared to take that risk over the longer term now. And hopefully, get to a point. And I have to print in those volumes in order to get the unit cost down and to deliver that quality of the print of the paper and stuff. But that's my risk, and I'll take it. And guys have been supportive. Grenville's Has books. They've just started arriving in the US. That's the boxes that I pack, and then so he's packed a number of the orders, and he's just waiting to get them out. It takes a long time to actually do a bulk lot of orders in one go, but within a few days he's got to do that around his work. They'll be going out, so we're just about there, and I'll get some new LJN Wrestling Superstars fairly soon and get boxes off and put them back up for sale. So, but it's community again, and instead of that being a hobby book for me, it's now part of my work. So it's now part of my catalog. So I don't have to find time to do it. It actually now becomes part of my juggling my work, and the same with spending the money on it. It becomes part of my business costs, which is quite a lot actually. But anyway, but that's it. That's how it goes from now on.
And that's such a labor of love for you to do that. And I shared beforehand how, when you first started asking the questions and said, people send stuff to, again, I didn't have a great story. And I thought, really, is there enough stuff for a book? And then when I got mine, oh my God, Brutus, it's overwhelming how much info is in there.
It's overwhelming. Thanks for that, Mike. Yeah.
And for anybody, and that's good overwhelming, because anybody who's, and you saw in the last week, people are like, well, I don't know if I want to spend $60 on this book. I'm like, I've been reading this thing for 3 months now, and I still haven't gotten all the way through it. And you're given, and people have their stories in there and their pictures in there. Yeah. Man, it is just fantastic. My fear is getting that Has book and going down that rabbit hole of Hasbros. So I want the book. Right. But I don't want to start collecting another line
collecting the figures. Yeah, and
I know.
That's a problem.
It's worth getting the book, even if you don't like the figures. I agree 100% about Brutus's book. The value for money in it is absolutely incredible. But I never liked Hasbros when I was a kid, but now I love them. I've never customized one, but I've got nearly the full collection. I was lucky enough to get them at a good price, but the Hasbook goes well with them as well. But I think the great thing about these books now is the Brutus has bought out another printing of them, so now people can buy a package deal of the 2 books. So that's going to be another point for people to buy the books, I think. I can't talk very well.
And thanks to the guys posting about it. It's hard. Some guy says called Brutus Valentine, which I had to create to have an online profile because I'm not online. I'm hardly online at all, as the guys know. Asking for stories, and until people saw what was being delivered, and I'm not going to say this is the best LJN book ever written. I think it is, because I think it's the only LJN book ever written. So no, actually, I think there's one other price guidey type thing. I just say let the readers judge. One thing I know is the quality of the book is worth it, and then it's up for the readers to decide whether what's in it. And I had to leave a lot out to make the weight, to make the postage, of course. So there's a lot more to be told. So,
yeah. I mean, I cannot wait to get mine. I know it just got shipped over to the United States. And I was talking to Greenville about getting it and getting Tyler one. I mean, because I don't see me collecting any of the figures, but the LJN book, I mean, it's like Mike said. I mean, it's thick. It's got a lot of great information that I don't read a lot, but this book is amazing, and it's got some great information, Brutus.
Yeah, and the Hasbro book is a great visual guide, which I like that it's totally different. It's totally a different type of thing. If I was to do a Hasbro book, it'd be like the LJN book, but that would take, once again, years of research, and I have to learn about all the inner workings of the company. What Reynolds put together is this. I call it a page turner. It's got these big juicy pictures. It's got the facts, and you read it and you look at it and say that mold was then reused, and you turn over and bang, and you've got the next thing. And then he goes into all the nuances later on, and he's got an easy, accessible writing style too. So well done to him.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot wait to get it in the mail. But Zash, there's a countdown, a number that is coming up 5 weeks until Custom Mania. And I know, Mike, that you've spoken with me offline, saying, you don't want to enter a Custom Mania because it just, gives you anxiety and creating 3 figures. But I just wanted to publicly ask you online if you would like to be a part of it, maybe be on the panel or be a guest on the program, because, you have such great insight, and it would be an honor and an amazing thing to have you on.
Yeah, I would definitely be on board for that. So count me in. I'm honestly, it's weird because I was a high school soccer coach, and I'm very competitive on certain things. But as I got older, I tried to push that away because that was one of my anxieties. It would set off my anxiety, and so. I appreciate all the comments that people have for me about my customs and my rings, but at the same time, I try to stay humble, and I don't ever think that I'm good enough. And there are other guys that are so good that I don't want to even throw my hat into the ring. I'd rather just watch it. I'd rather just see how many other people do that. So I appreciate the invitation. And if I threw a ring into the customs, people would know it was mine anyway.
Yeah.
That would be the giveaway. That would be the giveaway.
People know whose work most of them are anyway. Because people work in
everyone's got their
styles.
styles.
And I was talking to Zash online about IDing the photographic styles, and I was actually talking about the angles people use and all that sort of stuff. And so we know that, but again, there's no pressure. If once we're pressured into doing things we love, they're not things we love anymore.
Right.
And that's what we all have to remember across all our different spheres of life. And that's why, many people love their jobs because many people hate their jobs as well, but it's where that pressure sits. And if we start to put the pressure on ourselves, then we're losing the big picture of why we're getting up every morning.
Yeah, I've gotten, Zash, I know you've gotten a lot of feedback and about people entering and wanting to enter Custom Mania. I think it's, like Brutus said, he thinks he has the greatest LJN book because he does.
Because it's the only one.
That's not your fault.
Yeah,
No, I agree. It's great.
And I just think that this is going to be amazing. We're going to have more details on how you enter and do all that stuff. But I know, Zash, I like to end the show on a high note. And you had one last word that you said is amazing.
I want to give a shout out to Todd Tomeo. He's only on Instagram. If anyone is on Instagram, look up Retro Wrestling Revolution. He's a great 3D printer. He's very enthusiastic. He does heads, he does bodies, he does everything, and he's very reasonable. He'll even throw you a few extras here and there. But I got some stuff off him this week. I got a head that some of the guys have already done. I'm trying to find the angle. There's who can guess what he is? Who is it?
That's the giant Gonzalez, I would think.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah? I won't.
So I got that, and recently I made, to go with my demolition.
Stop showing off, Sash.
I know it. That's what he's doing.
Oh,
I know.
Now,
You threw me off because you said
I'm not-
demolition.
Yeah.
oh, sorry.
I was like, wait a second, that's not demolition.
Okay.
Oh,
glad you put me
look,
up on that.
it's blowing
I'm
up
glad
the
you put me up on that.
Southside Chicago
Oh,
guys
right.
ready to kick your ass.
Paul Eller
Exactly.
here,
Yeah.
he's missing one key ingredient. His glasses.
He has
He's known
glasses.
for his
Okay,
glasses.
yeah, the shades.
So
Yeah.
I gave Retro Wrestling Revolution, Todd Tomeo, a challenge to make me glasses for my Bret Harts, to make glasses for my Gorilla Monsoons, to make all sorts of glasses, Macho Man glasses, and he sent me bagfuls of the things, absolutely bagfuls. So I've got to sand them back and paint them and so forth. But look at these. Let me get them on his face.
Those are
Removable LJN glasses. Has anyone ever
Right.
seen anything like? Look, it can even go on his forehead. This is next level stuff. So I want to give a shout out to him. This wouldn't have happened without Todd Tomeo pitching in and just coming to the party.
I want that giant Gonzalez head.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong
Yeah, it's
shade
cool.
of black. It should be a charcoal black, not a blue black. You know, I think he should be ashamed of his work. Yeah, he's in.
But
It's
Harsh
not,
grade.
that's not about showing my guy off. It's about showing off someone else's
Right.
work. I
Todd,
want
he's
to
a
give a shout
nice
out
guy.
to him. He's a great guy. Yeah. So
Yep.
Thanks, Todd, for that.
Yeah, and Smash Ventura said the future's so bright, the whole collection is getting shades. So
Yeah.
that is definitely, and I know Zash, I wanted to let you have the final word, but we got an update about Tom Veg. He is doing so much better. I mean, I'm not saying that our prayers helped, but they don't hurt. So he is still. He's still, on the road to recovery. So if you believe in, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and pray for Tom Veg. And he's doing a lot better, and I cannot wait till he comes on the program because, he's a great customizer and.
Eat your vitamins.
Well, maybe not those kind of vitamins that Hulk Hogan ate, Mike, but. I'm just saying, but Tom, I'm glad you're getting well, and I cannot wait for you to come on the program. But Mike, I just wanted to thank you for coming on the program, and you're invited any week, even if you're not booked. If you just want to join in,
Yeah, absolutely.
You give a great perspective on collecting and customizing.
I enjoy it. I'm a talker by nature. I do sports announcing, and so I kind of like the sound of my own voice. So any opportunity I get, then I'm all in for it. But I just want to get back. I just want to get back to this community for what it's done for me too.
Yeah,
We love your work.
No,
Yeah,
you're awesome, Mike. Yeah, it's always great.
Yeah, you definitely do some great work. But for the great, the plan, Zash Man. The talking Tyler Peters, the Fixtorian Brutus Valentine. Guess I am the pod daddy, David Fine. We will see you back here next week when we have another exciting edition of the Figure Guys podcast.